When this area was taken over by the Muslims in the 700s and 800s, this area was all clear already because of the Roman demolition of Jerusalem and the Temple, and the Dome of the Rock was constructed on the same site where the Holy of Holies was, the rock from which it said that Muhammad ascended into heaven. This is revered as a very holy place in the Islamic faith. Now, of course, this makes for some problems in contemporary Israel because Israel has all of the area surrounding this, but this being a very special place in the Muslim faith, the Muslims have control over. Here's another view of the Dome of the Rock, and you'll recognize that the Temple Mount sits something like this. There's also a mosque over here, separate from the Dome of the Rock building. And here's what the Dome of the Rock looks like. The reason I'm showing you this is, notice that when it was constructed in the 700s, Greek columns of the Corinthian variety, arches holding it up, a large dome with gold plating on it, and here we have in the center of the building, surrounded by even more columns, this is the rock that's exposed, very holy place in the Islamic faith, and the entire site is also of much significance to Jews and Christians. Now let's take a look at Arabic script. It's very flowing. It reads from right to left, and this is the name of God, as written in Arabic script, the name of Allah. Here you see it again. Notice the similarity. It's the same in the same type of script. This is the name Muhammad. So what you saw earlier, and let's go back to these decorations of Hagia Sophia. What you see here, the name of Allah and the name of Muhammad. You'll see these names repeated in a variety of different forms. I just wanted to give you an idea of when we talk about Arabic calligraphy, what we actually mean. Here's the name of Allah once again. This done in ceramic tile, and various types of glazes applied to make the color show up when it's fired. Here is a very special prayer. This is another one of what's known as the 5 pillars of the Islamic faith, the shahada. This is a prayer Muslims repeat, and for anyone converting to be a Muslim, if you say this in good faith, then you've become a Muslim, and it's a one-way conversion. This is something very special to Islamic people, and because this type of calligraphy is used in the decoration of the mosque, it's done in a variety of different styles in different types of Arabic calligraphy. Now the reason I put these two together here is this is the shahada, and I want you to see, you can recognize from the earlier illustrations that's the name of Allah, and this is the name of Muhammad. So as this is written, even the positioning has some significance. God is pictured here in calligraphy above Muhammad. Now, I don't read Arabic script. I don't speak Arabic. I marvel at how this language can be communicated by these kinds of symbols. I think it would be a rather difficult thing for a non-Arabic speaker to learn this. Complicating that would be, this is also the shahada. But look at this very stylized type of decoration that it's turned into. Now, if you take a look at this, let me get rid of these markings. Take a look at this, the name of Allah, like a W with an extra curl here. Notice that's exactly what this is. This is that same W, and the little decoration here being here, this is the name of Allah. And here we have the name of Muhammad, and that's represented in this stylized form of calligraphy like this. So, once again, let's pick out the similarities. This is this, and this part of it is here. And you'll have to imagine how this part of the name becomes this. But somebody familiar with Arabic would recognize this as a sort of a different typeface for Arabic script to say the very same prayer. And here's just another example of what's called an illuminated manuscript. We'll see these in the Christian faith also. Here we have 54 different names by which Allah is referred to in a particular type of Arabic script. And here's another example of an illuminated manuscript What illumination means is all this extra decoration here. Sometimes in the Bible, in the Christian faith, these would be pictures of scenes that are discussed in the Bible. Here, it's much more in the way of geometric illustration and even gold leaf applied to these pages. Very fancy because the Quran is revered in the Islamic faith. Ordinarily, we don't see pictures of people in Islamic artwork. The real prohibition is against the use of human figures in the decoration of a mosque. In some Islamic cultures, it is permitted to show people, but not in a religious context. This is part of the journey of Muhammad between two cities, Medina and Mecca. And this is Muhammad. But you'll notice this is not a defect in this painting. This is a veil over the face of Muhammad. It would be extremely disrespectful to attempt to show his face. And it causes significant problems for people who would attempt to do that. It's a sign of disrespect that's taken very seriously. So here, when this art was created, a veil is placed over Muhammad's face. Now you notice the color green. That's also a very special color in the Islamic faith. It has the same significance in the Islamic faith that purple or blue or red, the clothing colors that are usually associated with Jesus or Mary or deities, stemming in Western culture from the use of purple as a royal color. Here, green has that role. Now here we have a Persian manuscript from even beyond the Middle Ages, very intensely interesting in the use of color, very vivid colors. It's a night scene, and it's kind of emphasized by having the moon out here. And the fact that these things don't shrink in size going back means the artist really didn't have any idea here of conveying depth by the use of what we call linear perspective, that things get smaller in the distance. So it looks rather flat to us, but the real impact here is the coloring and the placement of the figures, a prince meeting a Chinese princess, and then ladies in waiting with the princess, this being the princess. Not all art was intended to represent things the way your eye would see them. In some cases, linear perspective wasn't known in the culture, or in other cases, it wasn't the intent. Perhaps here the intent was, as with the Egyptians, to simply picture these people and to give the sense of the night and the sense of all of these lustrous colors and these flowers. And in fact, with a little imagination, you might even smell the scent of flowers by seeing this. And of course, you're surrounded by calligraphy that might be telling the story. It isn't that human figures are unknown in art produced in Islamic areas. But once again, this is secular art. This has nothing to do with religion. The use of geometric figures in carpets becomes an art form in many areas of the Middle East and farther east into the Orient. These are dyed wool fibers that are tied onto a coarse type of material and then all cut or shaved to the same length. The dyeing of the wool used to make this is an art in itself, and we'll be taking a look in the next unit at how various kinds of plants or tree bark might have been boiled and extracted to create various kinds of dyes. But that's not a very precise and replicable process. So within a given piece of carpet like this, you would see variations in the shading of the reds and the pinks, which in fact in some ways adds to the whole nature of it. Very tedious here to tie all of those wool fibers and then shave them off to create a carpet like this. It might take a year to create a carpet like this, and they're very durable and worth quite a lot of money. These don't come inexpensively because they require so much labor to have created, and they last for an extremely long time. Once again, an example of Arabic writing. I just found this in a book that I was using as a reference for some of this. This is this statement written in Arabic script, purposely done in such a way that it forms kind of a circle. An awful lot can be done with Arabic script because it's so flowing and it lends itself to this type of turning into art in itself, even though it's actually a written language. Once again, we can see here the name of Allah, placed quite appropriately at the top of this image that contains this statement, in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. We're going to see the same type of use of different typefaces in a subsequent chapter where we take a look at printing and what can be done with printing besides just the printing of the words that say something, but how they appear, having something to do with the impression that's conveyed to the viewer.